If you missed your favorite show or interview, visit episodes on our website at theworldtoday.news. Our live shows are also on X, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Kick, and Twitch. Now there really is no reason to miss out on anything on theworldtoday.news.
For The World Today, this is James O'Neill. German prosecutors indicted U.S. citizen Martin D. on espionage charges, alleging he attempted to sell sensitive U.S. military information to China. A former Defense Department contractor, Martin D. was arrested in Frankfurt in November of 2024 and has remained in pretrial detention. Authorities say he contacted Chinese state agencies in 2024 offering intelligence, though he was stopped before transferring material. His indictment comes amid heightened concerns about CCP espionage in Europe, with other recent cases involving German nationals passing military technology and a former aide to an EU lawmaker accused of spying for Beijing. Convictions could carry sentences of up to 10 years. Ukrainian pilots are fighting Russian drones using Soviet-era Yak-52 propeller planes, where gunners lean out of cockpits with rifles and shotguns to shoot UAVs. The 11th Army Aviation Brigade has destroyed about 120 drones this year, accounting for up to 12% of daily interceptions. The low-tech tactic recalls World War I aerial combat and even includes wing-tilting maneuvers to knock drones off course. Despite extreme cold and risks from upgraded Russian targeting systems, gunners say the missions are effective. The Wall Street Journal reported that Commander Konstantin Kamikaze Oberon was killed in July by a Russian missile strike. Hungary warned Ukraine after repeated drone and missile strikes on the Druzhba pipeline, a key oil route to Central Europe, halted flows 3 times in August. At Kyiv's Independence Day event, President Volodymyr Zelensky joked that friendship with Hungary now depends on Budapest's stance, a wordplay on the pipeline's name. Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó accused Ukraine of threatening sovereignty and demanded an end to attacks, saying this is not our war. Ukraine's foreign minister countered that Hungary should reduce dependence on Russian energy. Hungary, unlike most EU states, opposes sanctions on Moscow and rejects Ukrainian NATO membership. Australia's Shadow Defense Industry Minister Jacinta Price pledged to regularly expose the Chinese Communist Party's hostile activities, while distinguishing the regime from Chinese people. Writing in The Australian, she cited CCP aggression, including militarizing South China Sea islands, threatening Taiwan, blocking Philippine ships, and targeting Australia with trade bans. Price urged building a sovereign defense industry focused on drones, precision munitions, and small smart weapons, while opening defense contracts to small and medium businesses. She also proposed civilian crisis training in skills like navigation, first aid, and drone piloting to boost resilience and strengthen national pride. The Labour government announced a sentencing bill allowing many offenders with sentences under 12 months to avoid prison, focusing instead on community penalties and electronic monitoring. Overcrowded jails prompted the proposal, based on a review by former Justice Secretary David Gauck, who argued short prison terms foster repeat offending. The bill may also permit early release for good behavior, though not for terrorists or the most violent criminals. Critics warn the reforms will let drug dealers and sex offenders evade prison, contrasting with Nigel Farage's Reform UK Zero Tolerance plan, which advocates strict prosecution and expanded prison capacity. President Trump says he wants to denuclearize the world.
We have to stop nuclear weapons. The power is too great. One of the things we're trying to do with Russia and with China is denuclearization. And it's very important. One of the things I discussed with President Putin the other day, it wasn't just that, it was also other things. And I think the denuclearization is it's a big aim, but Russia's willing to do it, and I think China's going to be willing to do it too. We can't let nuclear weapons proliferate. We have to stop nuclear weapons. The power is too great.
We'll be back with another news break at the top of the next hour.
If you missed your favorite show or interview, visit episodes on our website at theworldtoday.news. Now there really is no reason to miss out on anything on theworldtoday.news.
Our mission at Pets of the Homeless is really simple, and that's to keep vulnerable people and their pets together when they're going through a tough time. Back in 2015, Pets of the Homeless started with a 20-kilo bag of dog food, made it into small packs, put it in a suitcase, and it was just me walking down the streets of Melbourne. One woman on a mission to make a difference. I would share the story on social media.
We've just hit 100,000 meals distributed today.
And the community really responded positively, and it just grew from there.
My name is Kent, and this is Hippo. She's everything to me. She's such a good girl. I got her at a time when I wasn't very stable. I'd come out of prison, I was homeless, but as soon as I got her, I just realised, oh my God, I can't let this dog go. And she's just my best friend. Hippo had a canine equivalent of an ACL injury. I knew there was something really desperately wrong. It was agonising seeing her suffering. My caseworker put me in touch with Pets of the Homeless, and Yvonne said that they could help, and I was just so overjoyed. I wouldn't have been able to get through that medical incident without their help. Like, it just would have been impossible.
That bond between us and our pet is very important. And when someone is going through a really tough time in their life, that bond becomes even more important. And that's what we're trying to protect at Pets of the Homeless.
Who's that?
My favourite quote is, I always wondered why somebody doesn't do something about that. Then I realised I was somebody. My intention wasn't to actually start a charity. It was to help. It was just putting one foot in front of another, and that's how we got to where we are today. We're now in a warehouse. We have about 150 volunteers. We provide on average about 60 to 70,000 meals every single month. We have a network of about 73 community partner organisations that we work with. We've also taken in hundreds of pets into our foster care program, and we've just reached 2.5 million meals distributed.
In the time that I've been volunteering with Pets of the Homeless, I've seen the community grow, numbers of volunteers, pet food packing, got a brand new van, and we can reach more community pantries and reach more people. The community, whether it's the volunteers who are packing the food, who are foster caring, they've got so much love to give.
I think Pets of the Homeless gives people hope. There can be a bit of judgment for people who are homeless and have a dog, but the reality is those dogs have got love and support, and it's so wonderful that Pets of the Homeless are able to help. It really makes a big difference in actual lives. It's really important work.
To the people who have supported Pets of the Homeless over the last 10 years, thank you from the bottom of my heart. There's so many kind people out there, and I'm just grateful for all of them. The work that we need to do is so huge and the need is growing, and we can't do it without the support of our community.
We're today's news talk, The World Today.
And welcome, by the way, to yet another day. It's a hump day of the week. It's a Wednesday. It's a Tuesday evening in the States. And if you're driving home at the moment or getting the subway home, do it safely, all right? Do it safely. We do have a big show today, and hopefully we'll catch up with our next guest very shortly. We're just waiting for him to connect with us. Looking at what's happening, though, in Australia, the big news in Australia is that 2 detectives were shot in Victoria. Or 3, 2 were killed and one was wounded. And it's a terrible situation. I saw the commissioner, the new commissioner from originally from New Zealand. He applied for the job of chief commissioner and got the job in Victoria. And I'm just wondering why they didn't pick a Victorian, because the Victorian police force is full of excellent police. However, this guy handled himself very well. The commissioner explained the situation. I just being probably the son of a policeman, I always think, why not get somebody from within the ranks? Because we are sure there's a few bad eggs around there, but with every police force, and Victorian police force is still a very good police force. Just my thoughts there anyway. The embassy staff have left the embassy, the embassy with the Iran ambassador. They've all gone back to Iran. What else is happening in the world? Not much else, actually. I'm looking at the news.com.au and it's pretty poor, to say the least. Before we get into our next guest, which we're still waiting, I just want to go through a couple of things here with regards to the WEF, and it is alarming, to say the least, if I can find my other page. Okay. Larry Fink is CEO of BlackRock, of course, and now he's running the WEF. I can't find that information. Isn't it terrible? Ever have those days? Today is one of those days. What we might do, Cam, because I haven't got a guest here, go to a commercial break, please, if you wouldn't mind.
Here's a bushfire fact. Bushfires can occur without warning. So if you're travelling during bushfire season, here are 3 simple steps to remember. 1. Check the fire danger rating before you go. The higher the fire danger rating, the more dangerous the conditions. It may be safer to replan your trip. 2. Think about the area you're going to and what you would do if a fire started. How would you escape the area if you needed to? And where would you go? Check if there's a neighbourhood safer place. 3. It's dangerous to drive through smoke or fire. If you can't find a way to avoid the fire, park in a cleared area, face the car towards the fire, and turn the engine off. Then lie on the floor and cover yourself to protect yourself from radiant heat. Live bushfire ready. For more helpful tips, visit myfireplan.com.au today.
I said, could she die? And the doctor said she could. It was so scary.
When I started clawing at my neck and trying to breathe, and I thought, what are we going to do if I die here? How's everyone going to go on?
When someone's gravely sick or injured in the bush, they rely on the Royal Flying Doctor Service. But now the Flying Doctor needs your help to fund vital medical equipment and supplies. Please search Flying Doctor online to give a regular gift of just $10. You can help equip the Flying Doctor's teams to respond to any emergency anywhere. Search Flying Doctor online. Become a part of the Royal Flying Doctor Service and help save lives in the bush.
With the latest information and analysis of major events from around the world, this is today's News Talk, The World Today.
Okay, we're back again. We've got to stop cutting those edges off. They're driving me nuts. Just before we get into our guest, which is we're still waiting, so I'm sort of got to fill in here. Looking at the world has gone nuts. WEF, for example, under the auspice of Larry Fink, have announced a plan, which is just hunky-dory, to ban private car ownership and single-family homes. Isn't that incredible that this is his agenda? Now, this guy has got as much oomph as anybody that you would ever imagine, because he's a very wealthy guy and runs the largest company probably in the world, except for governments, probably bigger than governments. Labor is bringing in new carbon taxes on raw material imports. The stealth tax, this is in the UK, the stealth tax will increase costs of cement, steel, aluminium and fertilisers by up to 24%. These crushing taxes might impress at Davos, but will devastate farmers and small businesses, and they will. They call this CBAM, C-B-A-M, and will be introduced at the beginning of 2025. I want to play this clip from Larry Fink. He says, we need to employ $50 trillion, and this is why the private sector must lead the green transition. Cam, if you could play green.
Larry, you've spent a lot of time thinking, writing, and speaking about climate risk. What, in your mind, is at stake if these projects in green hydrogen and sustainable jet fuel, long-term battery storage and carbon capture, what's at stake if they don't get this kind of funding?
Well, they don't get it done, then we are going to have more risk as societies. We're going to have more issues related to rising climate, and importantly, which will create more societal issues. Already, we're seeing an impact in society right now from climate risk and climate change. We are seeing insurance premiums going up 18% a year right now. So we're seeing a real impact from what climate risk is doing, from flooding, from fires. So we're seeing a big impact, and so the faster that we could find ways to mitigating the rising temperatures, I would say the more just society could be. And so to me, it's we don't have much time, and this is why when I learned about Catalyst and I learned about what Bill was doing, it was very clear to me why we needed to be a part of this, why we needed to invest the time and the money. And the key is also the time, because we need to be learning about these the new technologies and how to move forward. And we need to then inform our investors ultimately where we think the next opportunities are going to be too. And as Bill in his book wrote about, we need to employ $50 trillion to get to a green world. With the rising deficits that we see in governments, from our perspective, the $50 trillion is mostly going to have to come from the private sector. And I do believe that money will be well spent for returns. It will transform our economies. It will build new jobs. It will build new cities and new opportunities. So I look at this as an optimist. I don't look at this as a pessimist. But the key is to be that optimist. We have to jump on it now. We have to be investing today. We need to talk about it today, although much of the problem is in the future. But we're seeing more and more evidence of the problem today.
Hang on. There. Bill Gates and Larry Fink. A partnership, a relationship made in hell. They're going to achieve it too, because the pushback from governments is pathetic. There is no pushback. It's a hug and love one and all. Well, especially Mr. Fink, dirty rotten Fink, and Bill Gates. One gate closes, another one opens. It's terrible, and they're going to do what they want. And we, you, me, your neighbour, can't do much unless we all unite. And I go on, and I go on, and I go on, that we need a revolution. It's like this big snowball, isn't it? It's getting faster and faster and faster. And before you know it, kabang! So we are in deep, deep trouble. We need to look after our planet and our people and the humans in it. We do not need the Larry Finks, the Black Rocks, Bill Gates, the WEF, WHO, UN, and most of the governments around the world. We do not need you. Go away. Leave us alone. Get out of our lives. Just go away. Just terrible. And they are going to do what they want to do. You watch in the next couple of years. Look at England. They're going to have this CBAM. Oh, we're going to tax the hell out of you. Make it absolutely impossible. It'll be more land for BlackRock to buy, or Bill Gates to buy, install his plastic meat factories. Be a bit like Soylent Green. You watch. The world has gone nuts. Cam, something that hasn't gone nuts, Cam, is they're ready to push the button and play the whole thing this time. Before you do it, though, the thing that hasn't changed is that there are people who do well, and there are people who sometimes stumble along the way. And a lot of those are called homeless. And there's a great number of those that they prefer it, believe it or not, they prefer to be homeless. But there are many, 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 many others that don't want to be homeless. And we need to show a bit of care and compassion and love. But they have pets. They have pets. And the animals are those that, as part of their family, keeps them, sort of together, keeps them almost alive. And there's an organisation in Australia that looks after these pets, looks after the homeless with their pets. And they'll go to heaven, you watch, way, way before me. But that's just a magnificent organisation. Cam, can you play that beautiful clip?
My name's Yvonne Hong, and I'm the founder and CEO of Pets of the Homeless. Started Pets of the Homeless when I realised that such a service wasn't available to help those who are experiencing homelessness or hardship with their pets. And back then it was just myself with a suitcase full of food, and I would walk down the streets of Melbourne every single weekend to hand them out to anyone in need. Basically, I just wanted to do something to make a difference, no matter how small it was. So at Pets of the Homeless, what we do is we provide assistance with pet food. We also help them cover the cost of veterinary care, and we also take in the animals and provide them with a safe shelter when their owners are temporarily unable to care for them.
My name's Michelle, and I'm a volunteer here at Pets of the Homeless. They are our best friends, and people need to get out of certain situations. It's just so fulfilling and such valuable work that we do to keep best friends together, which is our tagline, and it's just so true.
It's either you choose the security of a safe shelter or you have to part with your pet. And a lot of the times people are actually willing to continue sleeping in their car or sleeping rough on the streets just because they don't want to be separated from their pet. So a lot of people, they don't have family and friends to support them. So their pet is their whole life.
So my name's Graham Collier, and I'm a full-time volunteer with the Father Bob Maguire Foundation. So we provide free food to those who are in need of assistance. And obviously, in addition to feeding our friends, our human friends, we also need to feed their pets. We live in a country in which there is a strange imbalance between a massive amount of surplus food and an increasing number of people in need. And if you look in there and look at all those amazing people packing up food, they've got heart. And I love working with people who give their time and give their personality. They're just amazingly wonderful people.
I'm Paul, and I'm a volunteer at Pets of the Homeless. My main role with volunteering here is doing the deliveries. In the 18 months that I've been here, the van was never full when I first started. In the last 10 months or more, I go out with a full load every time, and you see, you get people that are coming up to you and giving you hugs and thanking you and everything else. It makes me feel proud and good. Sometimes it does bring a tear to your eye.
This team, the whole organisation is full of volunteers that are passionate. We've got the same passion. We love animals. We love helping. So I feel really valued being part of this organisation. I feel really honoured to represent the organisation.
My name's Julie, and I'm a foster carer at Pets of the Homeless. Just giving someone's beautiful babies lots of love and attention and somewhere nice and warm to sleep. Pets of the Homeless pay for everything, all their bedding, their food, their vet, whatever they need. And I just have to give them some love and somewhere nice to live. And then now we've got Coco, and she's a sweetheart. And my dogs really love her. Labrador Cross Husky. Her dad has no home to live in. So he's looking for somewhere to live, and when he finds a home, she'll go back. It really makes me feel good about myself, being able to help someone, because it doesn't cost anything to do it. You just have to give love, and pets give heaps of love back to you. I was a bit nervous at the beginning because I thought I would be upset when they go home, but You just have to get it in your mind at the beginning that you're looking after someone's baby for them. About to go.
Yeah.
Are you ready? And action!
Who's that?
My name's Jason Mutimer. Currently now I'm living alone with Sash. I work full-time in a bakery. In all honesty, she means everything to me. She's the one that I come home to every night. So I got her when she was about 18 months old. Leading up to the accident, I was in a pretty bad place. Prior to that, I'd lost my dad to cancer. I had a breakdown with some family, lost my job, got evicted. I was actually living in my car with her for a year. I kept getting rejected every time I'd apply for somewhere because I had the dog, and it was just, it was a pretty hard time, When I used to live in my car, I used to always take her to this little place that I could actually let her off the lead. Since I'd been in this other house, I hadn't really taken her there, and it was just a Saturday morning, and we went for a big walk down there, and I thought I'd let her off the lead. She was just running, and next minute she yelped, and I thought she'd stepped on a bit of glass or something, because straight away she wouldn't put any weight at all on her back leg. Eventually I took her to the vets, and they just straight away said, no, she's done her knee. She's going to need ligament surgery. So a part of me felt guilty because I'd let her off the lead. Once I got that diagnosis, that was basically the only option that we had. And then Pets of the Homeless, off their own back, went and did a fundraiser, put it on Facebook, had a tremendous result, and raised well and truly enough to do the whole surgery. They don't know me, they don't know her, and it was within the space of like a couple of hours, and we'd already reached our target. Hundreds of well wishes, and absolutely brilliant, like the goodwill that's still out there.
Yeah, my name is Aaron and this is Spud. I've had Spud since he was a puppy. So he's 10 now, and I've had him that whole time, except for when he's been with Yvonne at the Pets of the Homeless. I had a bit of a rough patch. I had a workplace incident happen a few years ago now. I was unable to get secure proper accommodation for Spud and I for some time. And that was when I had to make the decision to sort of put him into foster care for a little bit while I found somewhere that was suitable for even just myself. We've now got a beautiful apartment and we go for walks every day, and it's just like lovely having Spud at home and being with him every single second of the day. Oh, to know that Spud was safe was probably like the most... It has two sides to the coin. It's sad and you miss him, and it's somewhat almost depressing that you can't even take care of your dog. But it's also very comforting to know that Spud was taken care of very well. His needs were all met, and he was with a family that loved him and took care of him. And just knowing that I had time to sort myself out and get my dog back was just such relief. I couldn't even imagine if I had to surrender my dog because I had nowhere for him to go. I guess just as motivating as it is for a parent to get their stuff together for their children. My family and Spud are on a very even keel. Sometimes it slides. That day was like very exciting and new. I just moved into the apartment that same day. Spud and I were so excited he jumped up and knocked my teeth out. But again, it was such a happy moment. I haven't spent the night without him since I've been back.
And back again, that was a beautiful doco, wasn't it? Mini doco. I think those people, they're just priceless. And I think a lot of communities have those, and a lot don't. And I think we need to do a little more for those, or do a lot more for those that are less fortunate than others. We're waiting for our next guest now. This is The World Today.
There are now 8 billion people living on the planet. Is there enough room for all of us? Aren't we going to run out of natural resources? How are we going to feed everybody? These are not new questions. Doomsayers have been asking them for at least 200 years. In 1798, an English economist named Thomas Malthus wrote his famous essay on the principle of population. In it, Malthus claimed that population grew exponentially, while resources needed to feed that population grew at a linear rate. The difference between the two growth rates, he argued, must lead to starvation. Malthus was wrong, and not by a little, by a lot. As the population grew, food production improved, and so did almost everything else. Consider the life of a typical American blue-collar worker over the span of a century. Using a unit of measurement known as time prices, we can estimate the amount of time someone would have to work to buy a given item. Between 1900 and 2018, the length of time our blue-collar worker had to work to earn enough money to buy a pound of pork fell by 98%, to buy a pound of rice by 97%, to buy a pound of coffee, 94%. While people can't eat rubber, aluminum, or cotton, these commodities are valuable inputs in the production processes that impact the prices of goods and services, and hence the overall standard of living. Their prices fell by 99%, 98%, and 96% respectively, while population of the United States rose from 76 million to 328 million. Famines, which were once common, have disappeared outside of war zones. In much of the world today, it's obesity, not starvation, that is a problem. This relationship between population growth and abundance may seem counterintuitive, but it's true. Remember this chart that so frightened Malthus? The reality looks very different. The more people we have, the more abundance we have. Relative to previous generations, we now live in a world of superabundance, the term that my colleague and co-author Gail Pooley and I have coined and use as the title of our book. What makes this superabundance possible? The answer is knowledge. Thomas Sowell, the brilliant Hoover Institution economist, explains it this way. The difference in the standard of living between the caveman and us is not natural resources. The difference is knowledge. We have a lot more of it, and we use that knowledge to make things from the same natural resources that existed during the time of the caveman, but which the caveman could never have imagined. Let's look at something as simple as a grain of sand. It's been lying around for billions of years. Then, some 4,500 years ago, someone figured out that by heating sand to just over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, sand could be turned into glass beads, then glass jars, and much later, window panes. With every step of discovery, the value produced from a grain of sand increased. Today we use glass in fiber optic cables and computer microchips, turbocharging our productivity, thus making us much more prosperous than our ancestors. Counting the quantity of known raw materials, like Malthus and many other people have done, might seem logical, but it misses the ingredient that changes everything: knowledge. And new knowledge emerges from the human mind. A newborn comes into the world not only with an empty stomach, but also a brain capable of intelligent, potentially world-changing thought. So what really matters is not the finite number of atoms on the planet, be they of zinc or copper or any other element, but the human ability to combine and recombine those atoms in ever more valuable ways. Therefore, we can confidently say that economic growth is less about resources, which are limited, and more about knowledge, which is limitless. As the Nobel Prize-winning economist Paul Romer put it, new ideas do not add up, they multiply. Here is another useful analogy. The world is a closed system in the way that a piano is a closed system. The instrument has only 88 keys, but those keys can be played in an infinite number of ways. The same applies to our planet. The Earth's atoms may be fixed, but the possible combinations of those atoms are infinite. What matters, then, is not the physical limits of our planet, but the human beings and their freedom to experiment and reimagine the use of resources that we have. Can we continue to live in a superabundant world? That depends on two components: people and freedom. The more people the planet has, and the more freedom they enjoy, the greater the likelihood that new, useful ideas will be generated to tackle our problems, whatever they happen to be. So, do you still think there are too many people? Or maybe not enough. I'm Marianne Tupy, Senior Fellow at the Cato Institute and co-author of Superabundance for Prager University.
Hey there, I'm Lance Bass, and this is CHIP. For more than 100 years, American Humane has been on the front lines protecting animals in times of crisis. From Pearl Harbor to 9/11, the California wildfires, and the coronavirus pandemic, American Humane Rescue has provided life-saving assistance for animals in virtually every major national disaster. If you're anything like me, your pets mean the world to you. And if disaster strikes, you want to keep them safe. To prepare for an oncoming disaster, ensure your pet has secure and up-to-date identification. And if you must evacuate, remember to take your disaster preparedness kit with you. To learn more about disaster planning and how to keep your best friends safe, please visit AmericanHumane.org.
G'day, Troy Casadale here. I've been travelling around this country playing music for more years than I'd like to remember. I've spent a lot of time on stage, but I reckon I've spent more time on the roads getting to gigs. And honestly, I've seen worse behaviour on the roads than I've seen at any concert of mine, and often from people who have years of experience behind the wheel. It's probably been a while since a lot of us have really thought about our driving, so take a sec and think about what you can do to help keep yourself and others safe on the roads. Us mob are almost 3 times more likely to die in a road crash than the rest of the population. So let's change that. Drive safely. Don't get distracted by the phone or others in the car or get hot-headed or any of that stuff. You wouldn't do inconsiderate things outside a car, so why do them in one? Don't let a car change who you are. Safer driving starts with you.
Telling it as it is. This is today's News Talk, The World Today.
And we're back again. A lot of things happening in the US. Trump is stamping his authority right across the US. And in most cases, by the way, I don't disagree. On the international scene, I have my doubts. But within the borders of the US, I think he's doing what an American president needs to do. Before we get into our first guest and our next guest, Josh Bernstein, I just want to play a clip here from Tulsi Gabbard. And she's discovered burn bags filled with documents linked to fraud from the 2020 election. Cam, if you could play that clip.
And you've also found many bags of information. I think they call them burn bags. They're supposed to be burned and they didn't get burned, having to do with how corrupt the 2020 election was. And when will that all come out?
Mr. President, I will be the first to brief you once we have that information collected. But you're right, we are finding documents literally tucked away in the back of safes in random offices in these bags and in other areas, which again speaks to the intent of those who are trying to hide the truth from the American people and trying to cover up the politicization that was led by people like John Brennan and James Clapper and others that have caused really immeasurable harm to the American people and to our country.
Great job. Thank you. We look forward to hearing it. The public looks forward. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's Tulsi Gabbard, and I think Donald Trump is doing. What he's doing is getting rid of the riffraff, isn't he? He's taking control. For example, he sends a strong warning to the Illinois governor who demanded Trump keep the National Guard out of Chicago. best thing that could happen to Chicago, by the way. And Trump says, I have the right to do anything I want to do. I'm the president of the United States. Send in the troops. And also another one, a massive, this is great news. Trump's FBI under Kash Patel has just settled with 10 whistleblowers who were illegally targeted by the deep state. They were silenced, suspended, bankrupted. Now they're being reinstated with back pay, security clearances, and public vindication. That's from Rod D. Martin, who also posts on X. Josh Bernstein is a news anchor and a political commentator and a wonderful author, which we'll talk about shortly. Josh, thanks for joining us. Trump is certainly putting his stamp, his authority down on some of these rogue states and cities and places that nobody really wants to live in.
Well, first, it's great to be back on the program with you. But, vindication really is the key word of the day. For well over 5 years, I have been ridiculed. I have been censored. I've been shadow banned. I've been relegated to, silenced basically on a website. And then, of course, once President Trump won, I was able to kind of come through and get more on social media. But I lost my Amazon Prime show. I lost my Roku television show. I was thrown off of every single social media platform. And quite frankly, I wasn't even allowed to be on Newsmax and One America News because the producers told me that I cannot say that he was an illegitimately selected president, Joe Biden. They told me, if you say that, you're not going to be invited back. So what I can tell you is I haven't been back on since, but I did keep my dignity. I did keep my ethics and my honesty. And then I called January 6th what it was. November 3rd, 2020 was the insurrection. January 6th, 2021 was the Fedsurrection and cover-up. And of course, when COVID happened, I called it a plandemic almost immediately. And I said that the Democratic Party and the Republican rhino establishment in D.C. Worked together with the CCP, unleashed the virus, stopped Trump rallies, and of course, used these mail-in ballots while everyone was locked down to steal the 2020 election. So the fact that the information is coming out and in these burn bags, I am going to be vindicated. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to get on all my social media platforms back, because I'm still not. I'm only on X at @RealJBU Show, and of course Substack, jbushow.substack.com. That's really the two spots that I'm able to be on. But throughout all that time, I kept the truth on my side. I was not controlled opposition. And quite frankly, it could have been a lot easier. I could have just kept my mouth shut, smiled, and made millions. But that's not me. That's not who I am. That's not in my DNA. So I'm really glad to see that finally this information is coming out. And isn't it amazing that these burn bags are still around? You would have thought after all the crimes that they committed that they would have burned all the burn bags, but thankfully they did not.
That's incredible. For crooks, they're terrible. And we have people who are in law enforcement and they're terrible crooks. The bad guys must have really loved. Actually, the bad guys really loved.
Well, they're just arrogant. They're arrogant. They thought they could get away with it.
It is terrible. When do you think we'll start seeing actual charges being laid? John Brennan, James Clapper, Hillary Clinton. I don't know about Barrack, whether he's going to have that ring of confidence around him. Don't touch me. I'm Teflon Barrack. Nothing sticks. But the others, they're going to be, they are in deep trouble. And it's a terrible thing to say, but there's a great number of us who are very excited that the possibility that John Brennan might be mother in the cell with James Clapper on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sunday.
Well, look, I think you can look at this a couple different ways. I know the frustration here in America, perhaps around the entire world. Where are the indictments? Where are the indictments? I get it. I understand. But I will say this, with all the activity that they have been doing and all the things that they've been doing, they are meticulous, they are quiet, they are methodical, and they are making sure that when they bring these indictments, they have these ironclad so that no radical left-leaning lawyer is going to be able to poke holes in it and have a situation where these people are not held accountable. So I do have faith in the Justice Department and the FBI. People that I know and I've talked to have all said the same thing. justice is coming. We have to be patient. We have to do it right. I've always said that justice done right does not happen overnight. And so, look, I'll be the loudest voice out there if by January of 2026 we're not seeing any indictments, because at that point I would say that's absolutely ridiculous, and I will be the loudest voice out there. Trust me on that. But I think we may have a very Merry Christmas with a whole bunch of indictments, and I think the way they're going to do it is they'll do it one by one right away. So the media is going to be like, what do we cover first, basically? And they'll probably do low-hanging fruit first, which is what? Letitia James, of course, Schiff, Lisa Cook, some of those people. I've said this before on my own show. The hidden weapon of taking down the deep state is Bill Pulte. This is the guy that runs Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac in the United States, and he's in charge of that entity, and therefore he has access to all of the mortgages, and he's going through and getting tips and whistleblowers coming forward saying this person cheated on this mortgage, this person lied about being able to live in this property when it's really not. And so I think a lot of that is happening, underneath the surface, where he's kind of working under the radar. And the best part about that is that as he's bringing these mortgage criminal referrals, the Department of Justice going, well, if you're cheating on your mortgage, what else could we possibly look at that you're also doing? Is there perjury? Is there obstruction? Is there so many other different things? So I'm really excited about it, and I would just tell people to just be patient and let's see what happens.
Trump is, he's I really like his bringing in the National Guard. You've got to be a bit careful here too. We don't want to get carried away.
Correct.
Although he could, though, because there are so many cities that are in desperate need of some authority, some law and order, honest cops, honest politicians. We look at DC, for example, and yesterday it was that 12 days it had been running or 13 days in DC with the National Guard out there, and not one murder for 13 days. Now, tell me in the last, say, 20 years when that's happened in DC. It's unheard of. So we may not like the idea of the National Guard stroke army being brought in, but it is cleaning these cities up. It is something that cops can't do or aren't allowed to do because of obviously very corrupt local and state and even federal politicians. So the same thing for Chicago. You can't bring your National Guard here. It's the murder capital of the world. So the authority that Donald Trump has, what's your thoughts on that? Do you think this is exactly what is needed in the US?
Well, as soon as I heard that he was going to, quote, federalize DC, I immediately cringed because I don't like to hear the word federalization of anything, I'll be quite honest. However, when I realized that it was only going to be for 30 days, because after 30 days you would need congressional authority and approval to continue longer than that, I said, well, you know what? This is a really, really dangerous city with murders and drugs and cartels and everybody else that's running around this city. So if he does clean it up in 30 days, and I actually suggested at the time that other states should join their National Guards into DC, which of course has happened. There's been, I think, 6 or 7 states now in total that have helped in the cleanup, which has exacerbated this cleanup. And the people are loving it. Now, the politicians are not. Why? Well, it's pretty simple. Because they are getting rid of their illegal Democrat voter base. They are now being arrested and deported, and they're cleaning up the city. But what's happening is that the people that live in the city, these are the people that are subjected to this crime. These are the ones that can't walk down the street with jewelry on, as Stephen Miller mentioned, or they can't bring their children or grandchildren to a park to play because they're worried about a drive-by or they're worried about being mugged or shot or killed. These are the folks that are living through it. And those are the folks that have been affected by this cleanup the most. And I am very hopeful that a lot of these big blue cities, if this ends up happening, and again, in short order, we don't want long, drawn out, federalization, but just little quick bursts around these cities. I think what will happen is for the midterms, these people are going to wake up and say, gosh, we don't have to live in squalor. We don't have to live in crime. We don't have to live with the drugs and the gangs and everything. Look what President Trump has been able to do in such a short amount of time. And I think politically, that is going to help Republicans in these midterms.
What about New York? Do you think he'll put his big toe in there for the same reason to stop the murders and stop the crime, make it a safer place? And under Rudolph Giuliani, the city got back to being such a great city. And I was there when he was mayor, and it was a magnificent city. We have a Zoran Mamdani, the guy that's running for mayor in New York. He's a Democrat, and he really, really hates the West. And Donald Trump, I think, has even commented on this, that if he becomes mayor, New York is in real trouble. How does he approach New York? Because it's a city that also has lost its way, and it's one of the iconic cities of the world. And the history, and good and bad, has made this city into what it should be. At the moment, it's lost its way. You have Mamdani. If he gets in, it's going to truly go back into the dim dark ages. How does he approach New York? What does he do there? And how can we negate Mamdani, or do we just have to wait for the election, because he could very well get in?
Well, first and foremost, this is very personal to the president. The president grew up in New York, right? He grew up in Queens. He went to school in New York. So this is his hometown, so to speak, right? And so this is personal to him. But what President Trump is going to have to do, and hopefully Mamdani does not win, but who knows what's going to happen, assuming that he might, he's going to have to, quote, Mamdani-proof the city. And he's going to have to send in the National Guard, federal agents, and say, look, you may have won the mayorship, but that doesn't mean that you run every aspect of this city anymore, or the state for that matter. So he wants no cash bail. He wants to decriminalize misdemeanors and things like larceny and sexual assault. I mean, this guy is really, really far out there. And so I think that President Trump is going to focus on New York, and I think he's going to help clean up New York and, quote unquote, Mamdani-proof the city. But for anyone that wants to know where the radicalism started with him, I would suggest watching the movie Mississippi Masala with Denzel Washington. His mother directed that movie. And what happened to him in Uganda, basically Idi Amin came in 1972 and basically threw out all the minorities and him and his family and everything else. So they were forced to leave Uganda. And that is truly where the radicalism starts. His father, the professor, is an absolute radical communist. The mother is so anti-Israel and so communist in her thoughts and ideology that she refused to even step foot in Israel for many years for film festivals and things like that. So if folks really want to know the true story of him, watch that movie from 1990, Mississippi Masala, because it explains it all.
Yeah, I just wonder that the authority, if he's a duly elected mayor to run the city, I mean, what you would have is and if Trump does step in, which he will, I have no doubt. But legal side of things, it's you wonder whether that is possible, because he's been elected. If he gets in, he's been elected, duly elected by the people of New York to be mayor. How can you then? I mean, you can't have a coup in New York. So what? And if he exerts federal pressure, Zoran Mamdani is not going to. He's not going to buckle. He's just dig down, because his intention is to destroy the West, and he hates the West, hates New York, wants to. I mean, anybody who wants to invest into a property or whatever in New York should be looking elsewhere. I mean, looking at anywhere but New York. But he's duly elected. If he gets in, you can't kick out a duly elected mayor that's just been voted in by the people of New York. What does he do?
Actually, you can, and let me explain why. What he could do, and this is something that Secretary of State Marco Rubio has been seriously contemplating and talking about lately, is denaturalization. And if somebody is communistic, totalitarian, if they are connected to groups that are considered to be terrorist organizations, you can lose your citizenship and be denaturalized. That is something that could happen. But if you really want a controversial statement, how about this one? I think, and I've said this as far back as 2019, which is probably why I've been banned from so many social media platforms, that I've called the Democratic Party a terrorist organization. I mean, they have terrorized the streets, they've terrorized unborn babies, they've terrorized the border, they've let, all these different things happen to the country. And so I said, all we have to do is rename them the Communist Party of the United States, reenact the 1954 Communist Control Act, and then, of course, from that designation, they would then be associated as a terrorist organization, and they would be banned from competing in our elections. Now, of course, that's a much more controversial take on it, but in reality, you could denaturalize these people and deport them. So there is a way to do it. Now, obviously, politically speaking, that'd be a tough nut to crack. But if he goes in and he cleans up the city right after the mayoral race, assuming that Mandami wins, there's not much that he can do. He can't stop President Trump from doing it for at least 30 days. Because, like I said, that's the rules of what they're allowed to do when they, quote unquote, federalize something for a short amount of time. From that point, they would sue, you'd go to the courts and everything else. And look, I'm not a fan of federalizing the whole country. Don't think that I am. But in order to facilitate getting rid of crime and drugs and cartels and murderers and everything else, I think it's a wonderful idea to do this in Portland and do it in Seattle and do it in Houston and do it in Detroit and Philadelphia and all over the country in a short little burst of time and then pull back. And what will happen is the people will wake up and say, wow, look what can be done. We don't have to live like that. And I think that it would change the trajectory of the country.
Yeah, it's all about preserving liberty. Tell us,
it's
like that segue.
All about preserving liberty, baby.
Tell us about your book. Tell us about Preserving Liberty.
Preserving Liberty was written and came out October of 2024. So obviously it was taking a leap of faith that President Trump was going to win the election. I felt pretty confident that he was, but if he didn't, I'd probably have 24/7, 365 security on me right now based on what I've put in it. But basically it is a blueprint on how to save America. And quite frankly, it could be used in other countries as well. I show how to give the power back to the people, taking it away from the politicians. A lot of what's happening right now in Washington, D.C. and President Trump's executive orders and things like that, I've talked about in the book and even suggested it. The interesting thing is right now it's on sale on Amazon for, I think, $10. So you can get two for $20 if you want. Right now, they're normally about $20 or $25, but right now they're $10 on Amazon. So if you folks want to take advantage of it, please do. It was not self-published. This was done through a publishing company. It went through a legal review. It's being distributed by Simon & Schuster, and it's been endorsed by a lot of big heavyweights, from the defense attorney Alan Dershowitz. It's been endorsed by Roger Stone. It's been the foreword's been written by Congressman Paul Gosar from the Freedom Caucus, one of our congressmen. And a lot of what we talk about is happening now, but I just show you how to make it permanent. It's kind of 150 pages of really more like a textbook on how to change the country to preserve our liberty, which is why I called it that: Bold and Brave Solutions to Save America and Create Permanent Freedom.
Because America, I mean, just to wind this up, America does need a bit of saving at the moment. The reason why I moved to America and worked in broadcast in the 80s was because, and 90s, was because it was such a beacon of hope. It was the country that if you put your head down, rolled up your sleeves, you were supported by one and all, and they were rooting for you to make sure that you did well. That's sort of not there at the moment, although under Trump it is coming back. There is nothing wrong with hard work, putting your head down, backside up in the air, and really working hard at something that you believe in. And that's what made America great. Everybody that went to the States, they had an opportunity to do very, very well, and to have the country had a very strong moral compass. It knew which direction was right, which direction was wrong. It was very tolerant, and all those sort of things, which made the States a great place, it isn't that at the moment. It is getting back there. And that's why I think Donald Trump is doing a very good job within the borders of the US. Just to wrap this up, Josh, this is just a very quick one. A rating out of 10 for Donald Trump within the borders of the US, what would you give him?
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt. I mean, everything that he's done, he's promised and has delivered on when it comes to that. But look, there's a couple things that I don't like and I'm against. For instance, banning the burning of a flag. I don't think anyone should. I don't like the act of burning a flag. I think it's hideous. I think it's terrible. But I also think it's freedom of speech. And that's one of the things that separates America from many other countries around the world. So I'm not in favor of this executive order banning the burning of the American flag or any flag for that matter. But, overall, I think this president is phenomenal. I think he sticks to his guns. I think he keeps his promises. And, we're not even really have started the golden age that it has been getting there. And the reason it's been stalled is because of Jerome Powell. So we have got to get rid of the federal chairman, the Federal Reserve chairman. I have called way back in April for him to appoint someone now and let him undermine everything that he does publicly, every statement he makes, everything. So in other words, a shadow Federal Reserve in order to pressure him to step down because he's the one person. The reason 401ks and pension plans and stock portfolios are not skyrocketing right now is because of Jerome Powell. And if you can get rid of Jerome Powell and put somebody in there that understands the economy much better, look out. The golden age will be about to begin.
So out of 10, what would you give Donald?
I'd give him an 11. I think he's doing a phenomenal job. Nobody's coming into the border. They just painted the border wall completely black so it attracts the heat more so you can't climb it. But I'll be honest, and I talk about it in Preserving Liberty, the Swanson section of Vermont, one of our states, has the highest amount of people coming in. And this is on the northern border. So I would love to see a northern border on the United States as well. Because look, a lot of these people, they can come from Central America and Mexico into the United States. But now with the border secure, they can't really do it. So what do they do instead? Instead of treachery through Panama and going into Central America and going through the cartels and the coyotes and the drug traffickers and everything else and going through the poisonous snakes and everything else, then they get to Mexico and then they try to get into the United States. Now you can fly from Bogota directly into Canada and just walk across the border right into America. So we need a border wall, and I say that in my book, Preserving Liberty, on the northern side as well.
I like the how they had a rumor that the what's the river called between Mexico and California, the Rio Grande, isn't it? But they said there were, unfortunately, somebody had released some alligators in there, and that sort of kept people out for a while. Oh, I'm not going to go into that water.
Well, I actually suggested that years ago as well. They ought to dig a giant moat between the two countries and just fill it with alligators and say, go ahead and give it a shot. See how you do.
Well, it's good that we give them a chance because we use their relatives for handbags. They can use us for an entree. And the other thing is a rating out of 10 on the international stage for Donald Trump.
Oh, goodness. 9.5. Look, I think he's done amazing work. He has stopped wars that have been going on for 35, 40 years. Pakistan, India, Sudan, what's the other ones? I mean, there's Kazakhstan and then Armenia, I think it was. There's so many things that he's done. Of course, wiping out the Iranian nuclear facilities. And then, of course, the one that needs to be the number one for him, which is the Russia-Ukraine war. That one's difficult. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I believe that Russia and Ukraine are basically going to continue this fight until one of them decides that they have had enough bloodshed. And I don't know when that's going to be. I'm not sure that sanctions is going to truly work here. But I will tell you this, if we were to stop supporting Ukraine and giving our taxpayer money and weapons and everything else to Ukraine, then I think the war would be able to stop. Because I think that, both countries have suffered, let's face it. And the bloodshed needs to stop. And look, if anyone can stop that war in the entire world, it's Donald J. Trump. So we'll see what happens.
If he walked across the Hudson On water, of course, the headlines from, say, New York Times would be, "Look, Donald Trump can't swim."
Right.
Josh Bernstein, if somebody wants to find out more about you or buy your book, you mentioned Amazon, how do they do that?
Yeah, just go to Substack, which is jbushow.substack.com. I do a show 7 days a week. And actually now I'm putting out even more content 3 or 4 days a week. I do 3 segments a day instead of just the one. And so you can check it out. You can become a subscriber there. And you can actually get a digital copy of the book as well.
Fantastic. Josh Bernstein, thank you very much, sir.
Anytime, any topic.
This is The World Today.